Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be revisiting some romances that I've DNF'd over the past few years, seeing if they deserve that second chance. The idea for this video came to me when I was perusing my Goodreads shelves and realizing that there have been quite a few romances that I've put on an on-pause shelf or DNF'd for reasons other than really not enjoying the book. These are romances that I think deserve a second chance, books that could be new favorites, that could be really good, but for one reason or another I put the book down, whether it was I was too busy to finish the book or I just wasn't in the mood at the time for the story. I just feel like these books need some love. I feel like there's got to be a hidden gem in here somewhere. So I have a whole bunch of books on this list to do, but for this video we're just going to focus on 3 books that I have DNF'd for one reason or another. First one is going to be Shameless King by Maya Hughes. This is a book that came highly recommended to me as a new adult romance to watch because it is a sports romance and it apparently has some really fun banter, and from what I read of it, I did really enjoy it. I think I got like 15% into this book. I don't know a ton about it, I just know that our heroine is trying to get through school and is trying to support herself because her family is going through a really hard time, and I know that our hero is trying desperately to keep his place, I think, on the hockey team. So it's sort of like an, not enemies to lovers, but like an opposites attract type romance. I'm just super excited to give this one a second try because I don't think I would have picked it up on my own otherwise if it weren't for this video. One that I would have picked up probably again on my own is The Guy in the Middle by Kate Stewart. This is a book about a football player who is very, I don't want to say like secluded, but he definitely keeps to himself, and we've seen hints of him in the first 2 books in this series. He definitely is the kind of quiet, strong and silent type I am so into, and I had been looking forward to this book forever, but for some reason when I started it I just couldn't really get into it, and I also had a ton of other books that I had to read at the time, so I am just excited to get to this one. I knew that I was going to revisit it at some point. This seems like the perfect opportunity. I'm ready. And then the last one is a book that I would say I'm like most hesitant to revisit because people keep recommending me the series over and over when I say that I enjoy paranormal romance, but it is a book that just didn't really work for me, and I think that might be in part due to the fact that I tried to listen to this on audio rather than reading it physically, which is not a mistake that I'm going to make a second time around. I'm going to try it in a different format, and that is Burn For Me by Alona Andrews, which I believe is an author duo, a husband-wife duo. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. This is about a woman named Nevada Baylor, I think is her name, and she has some, I want to say powers. I just know that this paranormal is much different than any that I've ever read, and I think that might have been part of the reason that I put it down. It just felt so unfamiliar and kind of difficult to get into, and the hero also seemed a little bit too gruff for my liking, but also his voice in the audiobook narration just really didn't work for me, so that could have been part of it. So I don't know a ton about this one, but I'm sure I will get back into the world as I begin to reread the first portion of this book. But those are the 3 books that I'm going to be focusing on for this video. Like I said, I have a whole list of other ones that I would like to try. Let me know in the comments down below once you're done watching if you guys enjoyed this and if you want to see more second chance romance videos. I'm just excited to get into this one though, and to see if I can find any 5-star gems, if I can see any books that I'm really glad that I didn't miss out on. So without further ado, let's get into the vlog portion of this video. Okay, hopefully my neighbor's lawnmower isn't too obnoxious, but I am 9% into The Guy in the Middle by Kate Stewart, and it's funny because I restarted the book for this video a couple of months ago, and then I just put it down and was like, I'll get back to this eventually, which is funny because that's the exact same spot that I stopped last time I kind of DNF'd the book. And that's not to say that it is bad or that it is an uninteresting 10%. It's actually quite the opposite, but there is something that happens at about the 15% mark, maybe not even that far in, that kind of gave me pause. I will say I love Kate Stewart's writing because I think it's really 0 to 100. You're never really bored or stuck in place in one of her books, especially at the beginning. I feel like all books kind of suffer from a little bit of boredom in the middle, but with Kate's books, you never start out bored, which I really appreciate. Firmly say that her books are very just compulsively readable and start out really strong. I'm not saying they like get bad as they go on, but they start really strong, which I, love. I think my issue and the reason why it's like hard for me to continue is because I don't like second chance romances, and I don't really want to spoil this book for people because I think a lot of people in the reviews that I've read really enjoy this book. Not that like I want to spoil books that people don't enjoy, but anyway, I guess I don't know. Second chance romances just don't typically work for me, and I kind of feel like I'm not sure if I am going to like Lance as much as I thought that I would. His character is just a little bit different from the hints that we got in the previous books. He is very stoic and focused in the first 2 books, and he very much much is that in this book as well, but as we're learning more about his character, it's going in a direction that, it's not that I don't like, it's just not what I had envisioned for him, and I think that's on me, right? Like thinking that it would go one way. I don't know, I wanted him to be sort of like a damaged hero in a different way than he is. He has like a pretty rough home life, that's kind of what he's dealing with, and our heroine Harper is kind of trying to like figure out her career and stuff too, so like they've got their shit going on. But I don't know, I just expected Lance to be a little bit different. Trying to withhold judgment though, because it's like we're only 10% into the book, so like maybe his layers are gonna come out a little bit more, but as of right now he just kind of seems like a grumpy jock, which I'm like about. It's like not my favorite. Harper on the other hand, I am liking a lot. She is going to school to get an accounting degree and also a dance degree. She wanted to just dance straight out of high school, but her parents were like, no, you have to get a degree first. That's kind of all we have of her, and we also get some hints about her past, I guess. We're finding out more about her family, and that is kind of like what separates the two of them, I guess. Like some secrets come out about who her family is, and he's like, I don't want anything to do with you. So anyway, I'm going to keep reading. I don't know, like I said, if I really want to spoil this book or not, but I think I'm going to try to get to the 50% mark before I update you guys again. With Kate Stewart's writing, who knows, like a bunch of stuff's probably going to happen before that point, but my goal is to finish this book today. I've tried to film this clip like 4 or 5 times and it's just like not going how I want it to go, but I have decided that I'm going to DNF this book at 20%, and I am sad about it because like this whole video idea is about like trying to read books that you DNF'd before, but this should just have probably stayed a DNF for uncomfy reasons. So essentially, there are just some stereotypes in this book that I personally wasn't comfortable reading, and I always feel weird pointing this kind of stuff out, not because I don't want to point these things out, but because I'm white, right? And I am not someone who is being stereotyped. I don't know all of what is offensive, you know, and like, you know, I can't speak for representation for books, right? But I think pretty surface level, some of the things that happened in this book are like kind of offensive. So I just didn't really feel comfortable continuing to read this book. I don't know, I wasn't like loving it anyway, so it didn't feel like that much of a sacrifice to just say like, I'm just not going to read the rest of this. And it's so disappointing because I love Kate's writing. I think she is so talented, and like I was saying in the first clip, I think she does a really good job at like hooking you from the beginning. I did read some reviews though before I decided to DNF this to kind of like confirm some of my, I don't say suspicions, but like confirm my feelings. Let me try to explain. So firstly, Harper is our main character, and she is often described as not that beautiful, and it's primarily because of her prominent nose. And then at one point we are told that she is half Jewish, and there's like a line about how that's probably why she is good at numbers. And I know that that was like supposed to be her poking fun at herself, but the joke just didn't feel right. And then on top of that, the main reason why I'm just like, our heroine's best friend is a gay Latin man. I never know what word to use, if it's Latin, Latinx, Latino. Let me know in the comments down below like what is most appropriate. He's a stereotype. He is like an over-sexualized character, and the like dialect and language that Kate decides to use for this character is very stereotypical. Like he can't pronounce English words well. I don't know how else to describe it. It did not sit well with me. It felt stereotypical and offensive, and you know, I'm not a gay man. I'm also not Latino, but it just didn't feel right to me. I don't really know what else to say. I'm just disappointed and kind of sad because like I said, I really like her as an author, and I read the duet that she published after this and it was completely void of any sort of like issues like this. So I mean, I'm hoping that she like knows that this was an issue. I don't know. That kind of sucks. I am going to read something else now. I'm gonna go ahead and start in on Burn For Me. Excited to give this one a second chance because I've been in the mood for, I don't want to say non-romance lately, but I've just been kind of in the mood for something a little bit like fantastical, paranormal. I haven't read a paranormal romance in quite a while. I'd say at least like 4 or 5 months. And I'm hoping that this could be a new favorite series for me because everybody hypes these books up. So fingers crossed. It's not like super late, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and start in on that tomorrow so we can be fresh and, you know, just hopefully delightful and like not in a bad mood because a book didn't turn out well. All right, I'm back in the screaming closet to talk about Burn For Me by Ilona Andrews, and I don't have much to scream about except for the fact that I'm enjoying this book. I really didn't expect it. I think I told you guys that at the beginning of this video, but I am enjoying this book, and I think it's because I'm not listening to this book on audio. I am reading it physically. I don't think that I summarized what this book is about very well at the beginning of this video, but essentially this book is about our main character, Nevada, and she works for her family's like private investigation firm. They mostly do kind of low-level shit like trying to catch cheating spouses in the act, that sort of thing, and that's actually kind of how we open up onto Nevada. And in the opening scene, she's actually actually trying to catch a cheating spouse in the act, and she also finds out that this cheating spouse has magical abilities that she didn't know about previously, and that kind of like causes some issues. But essentially the book is about Nevada, and she is tasked with finding and capturing someone who has magical abilities. He has been a really I don't want to say bad man, but kind of. He's been causing a lot of havoc, and people think he's just like super dreamy and I don't know, just like a bad boy rebel. He's on the news a lot. And this man has kind of I think he's committed a bank robbery with a younger boy who's about 17, and so Nevada is tasked with finding the like older man, like not the kingpin, but the guy who's in charge, the guy who got the 17-year-old to commit this bank robbery, and she is supposed to bring him back to the company that owns her parents' company, if that makes sense. That's sort of what she's supposed to do, and it's sort of tough for her because she doesn't have any magical abilities, I don't think, but the people that she's having to deal with in this situation are very, very powerful. In this society in general, there are people who have magical abilities, and there's like levels to those abilities, and like the top is prime, like you're a prime magic user, and the person she's capturing has prime abilities. I don't know if I'm doing a very good job at describing this, but long story short, Nevada's got to capture this dude, and I think in the process of this, she's ending up in leagues with someone that we find out about in the prologue who has this kind of notorious reputation, kind of like the guy she's supposed to capture, but this man is trying to capture the 17-year-old that the other guy is in leagues with. So anyway, they're gonna like team up, I think, joint effort, Nevada and this dude, and they're gonna catch the two dudes. I'm sure that was really confusing and convoluted, but I'm excited about it. It's good. I think I'm gonna enjoy the male love interest more this time around because his introduction I was more interested in this time around, and I know that I'm not going to have to listen to the worst southern accent on audio, so I'll be able to like create his voice in my head, and it'll be a more enjoyable experience. Like I said, I'm only 10% in. I'm enjoying it though. It's good, and I'm hoping that it continues on in this path. I like Nevada. I think so far she has that typical kind of like badass, but not over the top badass, paranormal romance main character energy, which I like a lot. That's half of the reason I think I read paranormal, is because of these strong heroines who know what the fuck they want. So I'm gonna keep reading. I'll probably update you guys when I'm like 50-ish% in. It is kind of a longer book, but I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know I spent a lot of fucking time on a book I DNF'd last time. So I'm gonna keep reading. I'll update you guys once I'm 50% in. I'm kind of a mess today, but that's fine. It's like a week later, right? I am 60% into Burn For Me. I like it. I like it a lot. Reading it physically is such an experience, and rare that I feel like the audio versus physical experience, or like physical reading experience, is super different for me. But sometimes I catch myself thinking like, this book would have been better had I consumed it in a different format. And this is definitely one of those times. So this book, I talked about a little bit obviously in the previous clip, and everything that I said still stands. Our main character Nevada has teamed up with Mad Rogan, who is this kind of, I want to say like notorious guy. He is former military, and I think I mentioned that in this society people have magical powers, and those magical powers were kind of developed for the military. So Mad Rogan was in the military, and he is extremely powerful and extremely dangerous, and Nevada is kind of like hesitant to team up with him in the first place. I love their relationship already. I mean, they don't have like a romantic relationship per se, but she is extremely attracted to him, and he is, I don't know, kind of flirty too, but in a cold, standoffish way, which I'm so into. So loving that, and I'm just liking where the story is going. They are having to team up to capture this guy Adam Pierce, and it is just, I don't know, it's interesting. And Adam also kind of has a thing for Nevada, so that sort of like complicates things a little bit. But it's funny, I actually only put makeup on so I can film this clip so that I can read the rest of this book. I actually went visit my parents this weekend, and I was just like, okay, I have to kind of not read the rest of this book before I can sit down and film a clip, and that was really tough. Obviously I'm really enjoying it. At this point I think it's going to be a 4 or a 5-star read because it's just really good. I'm excited to finish it up. I probably will finish it tonight, mostly because I want to move on to the other book, and I also have to read some books for another video I'm doing. I'm filming my Dark Academia video at the same time that I'm filming this one, and I think this one's gonna go up first. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna keep reading. I will update you guys once I'm finished with the book. Curious to see where things go. I don't know if they're actually going to apprehend Adam. I know there's like 2 other books in this series that focus on Nevada and Mad Rogan, so I'm curious to see if this is part of like a bigger plot. There have been kind of hints that some of the actions that Adam is taking are not just to be malicious or like petty, I don't know how to say it. He blows shit up just for fun, it seems like, but we're finding out that he might not just be blowing things up for fun. He might be to distract from the fact that he is potentially stealing like artifacts that could, I don't know, we don't know what the artifacts do, but I'm wondering if the artifacts are going to like play into the bigger picture of like the 3-book series. So that's a lot, but I'm having a good time. It's been good. It's been a good reading experience, and I forgot how much I missed like paranormal and urban fantasy romances. I definitely need to get back into those. I know that Jess and a few other booktubers are hosting a paranormal romance readathon, and it'll be like way past by the time I upload this, but I might participate in it. I don't know. I am just in the mood to read about vampires or magical powers and steamy smuts. Anyway, I'll get back to you guys once I am finished with this book. Hello. My hair is much darker than when we last spoke. I dyed it a couple of days ago, but I just finished Burn For Me by Ilona Andrews, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I was enjoying it, I mean, the entire time I was reading it. For some reason, it still took me quite a while to get through, kind of like it did when I DNF'd it the first time, but that didn't really take away from my enjoyment of this story. I'm gonna give this book 4 stars because it was just so entertaining, and I'm so glad that I picked this up physically. I just really grew to love Mad Rogan's character in this book. I think he has this sort of like Jess Mariano sardonic quality that I'm really enjoying. I'm also watching Gilmore Girls right now, so I think that's probably influencing like my comparisons here, but he was just such an enjoyable hero to read about, and I just really liked his interactions with Nevada. It was very typical paranormal urban fantasy romance, like will they won't they type thing. I think if you've read any amount of paranormal romance, you know what I'm talking about, but I just really enjoyed the dynamic, and it sort of gave me Farrah and Reese vibes as well. I think if you like Reese, you would really like Mad Rogan. This is one of those books that I think is just so universally recommendable. Hey buddy. Peppy's right here if you guys want to say hi. Do you want to say hi? He's unsure. It's just one of those books that I think I'm going to be recommending to people for years to come because I think it's a very accessible book, and while this is not my typical paranormal romance, while I kind of prefer the whole vampire thing, I still think this was really successful, and ultimately it was just a really good book. The only thing that is kind of keeping me from giving it a full 5 stars is that while the story was very action-packed, and while I didn't feel like there were a lot of points where the story was boring, it was not my favorite in terms of storyline. I like the way that they're kind of setting up things for the next books. I mean, it's funny because I think I mentioned that I was wondering if this plotline was going to carry on into the next book, and I think it is, but also not. Like, there was a good resolution at the end of this book, but I also think some elements are going to carry on into the next book. I'm also very interested to see what Mad Rogan's background is. I don't know, just most things about this book I think were quite technically perfect, even if it wasn't my like perfect paranormal romance. As to like why it wasn't 5 stars, I think the writing was solid, the character development was solid, and nobody was super irritating. I don't know, it was just really good book, and I think if you enjoy romance, you'll like this. The only thing I will mention is if you enjoy your smuttier romances or you're expecting a sex scene, that doesn't happen in this book. I'm assuming it will probably happen in subsequent books, but I'm not entirely surprised because from what I've heard about the Kate Daniels series by this author duo, there's not any sex in those, or like very little, so I don't know, not super disappointed. It was still an entertaining story nonetheless. So that's kind of all I have to say. I'm really glad that I gave this book a second chance, and I'm actually quite excited to pick up the next installments. I don't know when I'm gonna do that just because I have a lot of other stuff to read for videos coming up, especially like all the dark academia shit that I'm working on. This hair kind of works good for the whole dark academia thing. But I am gonna go ahead and read the last book for this video, Shameless King by Maya Hughes. I think this is the perfect book because I've been reading some kind of like heavier books recently. Like I said, this one, the dark academia books, and some other romances that I'm reading are like dark, so having something maybe a little bit lighter and new adult I think would be good. So I'm looking forward to this. I enjoyed the 15% of it that I read before I DNF'd it the first time, so I'm hoping that this is another romance that I'm glad that I picked up a second time. I'm gonna go start in on that book. I'll probably update you guys when I'm like 20% in to kind of give you guys a little bit of a synopsis. I'm finally in a different sweatshirt and in a different location. I hope you guys like that zesty change of pace, but I am 20% into Shameless King by Maya Hughes, and I thought it would be the perfect time to update you guys because the groundwork has officially been set for this book. So essentially, our main character, Declan, is a hockey player at this university, and he has recently not gotten kicked off the team, but he's on academic probation, and in order to get to play his, I think, junior or senior year, he has to do really well in this one class, who he is coincidentally in with this girl that he went to high school with. He danced with her at the high school's like dance, I guess, like prom or whatever. Wow, I cannot think today. Danced with her at prom, and she's going through her own shit. She recently transferred from Stanford, but she moved back because her dad, I think, has like a terminal illness. So she is back, and she's just trying to do her best to kind of stay above water, make a little bit of extra income at a sports bar, and just kind of survive school. And obviously she doesn't want to have anything to do with Declan, but I'm sure what the story is going to be is her helping him in this class that he needs to pass in order to do well in this class. I don't think that's a terrible setup. However, it reminds me so much of The Deal by Elle Kennedy, and some of the other things that are sprinkled in, like Declan's relationship with his dad, kind of reminds me of other books in the Off-Campus series. So not a bad thing. It's entertaining so far, and I would say if I could describe the character dynamics between Declan and McKenna so far, I would say very much like Nathan and Haley from One Tree Hill. This is obviously a college setting, but she's definitely like the nerdy, bookish girl. She definitely was like that in high school. He gives me, I don't know, just the same energy, which is interesting because I didn't really get that energy when I was reading a book like The Deal by Elle Kennedy. So anyway, it's like slightly different, obviously, but very similar in that he's a hockey player and she's helping him study. So anyway, curious to see where things go. We also have had some hints at McKenna's past besides just her father's like terminal illness. I'm thinking we're gonna find out a little bit about her brother, who I think passed away. I don't know where it's going. I hope it does end up differentiating itself a little bit between itself and The Deal. Not that it like needs to, I guess, but they are very similar. So I'm curious to see if this one goes in like a different direction or what the character dynamics are once Declan and McKenna kind of give into their attraction for each other, which we haven't really explored yet, even just 20% into the book. But we've got a good setup. I'm excited to see where things go, and I will update you guys once I hit the 50% mark. I honestly should just scrap this video at this point, but if you're saying it, you're saying it. I am gonna DNF Shameless King by Maya Hughes. I feel bad saying that, but I have been trying to force myself to read this book for the past like 2 or 3 weeks, and it just isn't happening. It's not a bad book by any means. In fact, it definitely gives me Ainsley vibes, and I love One Tree Hill, but it's just not enough to keep me interested in reading. I'm just bored. I'm so painfully bored. Declan and McKenna just aren't giving me anything to work with, really. I was hoping that they would get more engaging personalities as the story went on, but it just feels very formulaic and not in a fun way. There's not enough about the characters to make me overlook the kind of blandness of the overall story. So it sucks because I was really hoping that I could find another series like the Off-Campus series to tell you guys about, but I'm just not having a ton of luck with this book or with this video. I don't know if I'll ever do this kind of video again because it was just not really that successful this time around. I say that. I think 1 out of 3 ain't bad, right? But I do think it goes to show that I have pretty good instincts when it comes to picking books that I'm gonna DNF because yes. So I guess that's kind of the end of the road for this video. I guess we can kind of like briefly go over my thoughts on the books again. First, we have The Guy in the Middle by Kate Stewart, which I did, again, ultimately DNF. Really disappointed in this book because I really do like Kate Stewart. I think she's a fantastic writer, but this one really missed the mark in terms of the plot and also in some of the insensitive things that were present in this book. Really disappointing, and I'm hoping that this is not an issue in the future with her. Yeah, just overall kind of sad about that one. The second book that I read, I really enjoyed, and I'm actually excited to read more of the books in the series. Burned for Me by Alona Andrews. I liked Mad Rogan the second time around. I don't know why, I did. Would highly recommend this book. Don't pick it up on audio, but definitely pick it up. It is just a fun read. I totally understand the hype on this one. And then lastly, Shameless King by Maya Hughes. This is one that I don't not recommend. It just didn't like perfectly work for me. I thought it was kind of boring. If you're looking for a hockey player romance and you want something just kind of bog standard with nothing really problematic, I think you could definitely pick this one up and have a really good time. I just couldn't force myself through it. And since I'm also reading another new adult book right now, showed, I guess, the things that I wasn't liking about this book even more. Like, I think I probably could have powered through it if I hadn't already been reading a good new adult right now. A good new adult that you guys kind of hate on Goodreads. But anyway, that's it. If you guys want to see me do this again, let me know. Also, thank you for like bearing with me as I go through this journey. Not every video pans out, and I think that's kind of part of why I wanted to post this too. Like, sometimes things fail. I had an interesting time doing it. I wouldn't say it was like the best time. I wish I had found more books that worked out, but I do still have quite a few on my list that could be interesting. So just let me know, I guess, if you guys want to see me try this again. If not, I get it. But thanks so much for watching. I love you guys, and until next Sunday.